and that's so one of the cool things is I'll share how you can deliver SAP CPI a little easier and what's going on in it. And then trying a new format and see how it works. So let's try to get started. So I have a few slides. I think mostly will just be demos, and if you have questions, just put them into the chat and we'll try to see if we can cover those. And thanks for joining. Yes, so the agenda is a little about why integration, why DevOps is an interesting part. We'll cover how the Figaf tool can help you with your SAP integration, and then let's see if we can cover something about how to get started with this tool. Yes, and it seems like everything is okay, otherwise put some comments into the chat. So why is integration important? I guess you saw this presentation by Christian Klein, I guess a couple of 5 days ago or something like that, where he was mentioning a lot about the different things SAP has done in terms of SAP integration, making it easier for businesses to run, and this just proves how vital SAP integration is, and why it's something that SAP needs to get right, and CPI is obviously one of these things. But as a customer, you still need to create a lot of integration. So what he mentioned here is SAP is delivering a lot of pre-delivered content to make it easier for customers to learn SAP or to use SAP integration without having to develop as much. And the idea is that integration is so vital for any company that if you are not, if you're building business processes, you need to make sure that they are supported fully end to end. And in modern systems, you do have 3 or 4 different systems that the business processes is going around in, and that's one of the things that is causing a little problem and why you need this kind of integration. And if the integration drops and does not work, then the process breaks down and you need to figure out how to improve it. And that's one of the things that you should be focusing on improving. So I love the SAP CPI platform. It is really great at creating a lot of integrations in. And if you have been familiar with the SAP PI or PO, the way you could do integration was a lot more rigid. There was a few ways you had to think about it, and you had to box everything into this specific point of view. Now I really see some of the cool things about why this fixed pipeline really works and make it easier to manage the integration, because you knew this is how everything works in the CPI world. It's a lot more fluent, and people are actually developing in different ways. You got a lot of pre-delivered content that SAP is providing, and obviously that was also the other statements, making it easier for you to get started with integration. And this flexible pipeline enable you to actually create this integration that's needed. I saw some comments the other day that if you could not really modify the target systems, then the integration would become a little more complicated to manage. So what is DevOps? And I will probably get into some problems with this because obviously this is one of the topics where you see a lot of differences in opinions and what's going on, who knows what it is. So the basics ideas of this is it's concatenation of development and operations, and this is what I've seen in the SAP world for forever, because you had 3-4 developers and they were doing support, they were doing all these other things. So the concept has not really been new. I think one of the idea we have about this is the thing about making it easier and having like a streamlined pipeline of how data is supposed to be exchanged between these different systems. So yeah, and make it easier to deliver code. I think the idea you had in some of these online companies like Google or is that a developer should be able to within the whatever first day take some code, move it all the way to production, make sure it's run a lot of different type of tests, and that is the idea that we strive towards. And why do you need something like this? If you have looked at your backlog, you have probably seen that there's a number of different areas where you could actually improve your processes, because too many interfaces, there's a lot of integration work going on, and it is such a vital part of your SAP integration. And one of the other challenges, as we've seen in the last couple of months, is that there's been a lot of consultants or developers that have been made redundant and had to move to other companies. And whenever you're moving or changing companies, things get lost in the process. And I think that's one of the key areas that you as a developer need to figure out. How do we, or the company needs to figure out, how do we actually make sure that if some guy moves, then we know what's going on and we know how he can fix these things. So is our DevOps process perfect? By no means, and I'm sure if you are all into this development process, you probably have a lot of ideas and input to it. If you have more ideas and inputs, put them into the chat or in an email, and we'll go around and see if we can actually find a way to solve these things. So I think let's just take this first. So in a DevOps world, people may think of these kind of concepts, and it's not something that we at the moment are able to really achieve. So one of them is, you just have one Git repository where you can put all the code in, where you can put the different types of informations that are going on into one repository. You are able to commit. So once you commit it, it may be deployed on some local system that you can run and test it out. You may specify specific branch or tags that you want to deploy into your production. At the moment, we do see it as a little difficult supporting all these different things. One of the primary use cases or challenges is that you have an online part. This is the BPM modeling part, where you need to fix a lot of things, and at the moment I really don't see a way to do that locally. Obviously you can still edit the BPM model locally, but it's a little challenging. And another challenge is this thing about local development that's going on. Yes, for now it's not really the scope. I hope you will bear with me and see if this process will try to show you is better. So a little more about DevOps. It's part about coding, it's part about building, testing, packaging, releasing, and configuring and monitoring, all as a part of this streamlined process that's going on in this world. But let's try to get started. So first off, we need to make some change. We have got a business request to make some changes in some of our code and make sure that we can actually run and see these changes that are going on. So let me try to yes, just check this. Good. And the other thing is you have development iflows that's done via the UI. You would have some Git repository that's done via where you would have a lot of change management going on. We have providing some unit tests. We are providing some friendly EDI EDE that you can edit or edit the code in, because the online editor does lack in a few areas. We are providing some Gradle plugins that allow it to make it a lot easier for you to run and test these things, and then we have a lot of shared resources. If we just look at how our Git process works, is the way we're doing it is in the CPI system. We have an agent that is listening to this CPI system. It's then fetching all the data from here. So it's fetching all iflows, value mappings, and these kind of things. Once it sees that there's a change into it, it will then download it and put it into its own versioning control. And then once it has figured out that this, since I ran last, this is the change set, it will put this into the Git repository, and the user can then use this Git repository, and it come with all the templates, all the things that you need for you to get started. The user can then interact directly with the CPI system via these Gradle plugins, or he can actually commit some things into the Git repository. And that is, I guess, one of the challenges where you need to figure out how do we actually, what's your processes. We have some ideas about how you can also do this, but so let's see. So I think that was, then we have these Gradle plugins. They are open source. They come pre-delivered with this Git repository that you can, and then it enables you actually to use these things directly. Good. So let's get started. So here we have this synchronization. We can see what was changed as a part of the last run we had. I just made a change in this value mapping. If you want to see what was actually changed as a part of this, we have our versioning control here. So we can do the compare of this, and we should be able to see that there was actually a change here called August 4th. So that's good. And the same, we also, I just created a version for the other part. Now I want to see this also in my Git repository. So here I have the Git repository, and if I look at we can go here. So here we have the Git repository that comes. It comes with all the packages, a lot of scaffolding that is needed to run iflows in it. You can see all the iflows you have. You can see the value mapping which we had, and then it comes with a lot of templates for running these things. So there's a template that shows you how to set up all the building, there's the settings, and all of these are provided by the tool, and it's just pushed into the repository, so you don't need to do anything. I think I really like this. Some of our developers think this thing about creating a fixed repository can be a little challenging because they want to customize things themselves. But I think normal developers or integration developers, especially myself, have not been working that much with Git and all these components. And I think this is the part that can actually help make it easier for them to actually use these tools. So you're getting all of these things. So here we have a Gradle plugin. We can go in and we can change a header. So we will change this header to August 04 in this plugin in the 02. And one of the things we can then do is we have created these Gradle scripts, and these is test cases that we have taken and converted into test data. And if you look at these data, we can see it contains a lot of different in and output, input and output messages that comes into this. If you have any questions, I forgot to say, just put them into the chat and I'll try to cover them along the way. It needs to be a little more interactive. So yeah, if you have questions, just put them into the chat and I'll try to cover these things. So here we're giving all these test cases that we've created. I will show you how you can create this later if time permits, but it's pretty simple. So, and with this, we provide these scaffoldings that you can use. If we take here, we can see here where we want to set a breakpoint. And then in here, we can say run and debug. And then this will take the input message that we have, put it into, then I run it in debug. Run it in debug mode, and with that we get access to see what's going on, who is performing which changes in the code. And this is something that makes it a lot easier for you to develop on the fly and see at this specific point in time what kind of data do I actually have in my landscape and stuff like that. So this is one of the things that makes it a lot easier for you to see how your code is being executed, what's going on in it along the way. So we've made this change here. We can resume the program. So I think there's 3 processes of this. So we can see that the demo passed all these things. So we do have some exemptions in the process, and once they've been added, they will probably not be seen. So we got the configuration, I think, here. So yeah, so webinar demo is not a part of this, and that's why we did not see it. If we remove it and run it, we should most likely see that there's some changes that are missing. So we can just run it, and that means you as a developer has option to handle these things. Graphical mapping with the, no, not really. I think that's one of the challenging things to be able to support because it's SAP property. You can obviously edit the XSLTs in here, and you can run it directly from here. So here we can see there was a value we'd expected something else in it. So now we're satisfied with our big code change, and obviously we did create it because the business wanted it to happen. So yeah, we want to upload it. We can just click here, and then this will take all of this iFlow, package it, and deploy it to our CPI system. And this normally takes a few seconds. So now we can go to our CPI system, and we have it here. We have the package that we have. Oh. At least you can see it's live. So yeah. So here we have our package. We can go in. We can make some changes to it. So standard iFlow, we'll just edit it, and let's just here. So here we can see actually the script, and if we open this file that is connected to it, we can see that it is actually in this scope, the data we have here. So let's also just make a small change to the iFlow. So we can make changes in all the different parameters we have. like this. We'll save it as a version. So obviously you probably want to create some more interesting changes, but for now it's good. We have now a new version of it, and we can deploy it. Oh. I don't want to configure it, so obviously it's configurable. So we want to deploy it here, and so now it's being deployed as normally we will run these kind of things. So we now have the option to synchronize, and with this synchronization we can then in the Figaf tool get all of these iFlows. Obviously you also, from if you want to develop more in the Git, you can use the download option once you are working on some of these iFlows, that you can then use to download the data from there and see what's going on in it. So now we can see there was some changes in these two things. We can go into the BPM model or the iFlow, I guess the main part of the iFlow. We can see the different versions that exist in this, and we have the option to compare two different versions. We have created a simplified model because sometimes it can be a little difficult seeing what was actually changed as a part of this. So we can see that there was a change in the iFlow, and we can see that there was created a new constant here. So this is all good. We have now created a change, and if we go back to our Git repository, and so it will come right now with a conflict saying hey, you have edited this file in both areas. So if we look at the Git here, yeah, you should be able to see all the different things that had happened in it in the file. So yes, so now we have the model. We have created a change. We know what it is. We want to document what has been changed as a part of this change request. And we got a Jira incident on this, so we will take these three values we have created, we will assign it to a ticket. Obviously you probably want to put something a little more telling in your business perspective for these. You can specify which landscape, so you can, for instance, for CPI have one development tenant that distribute to multiple output tenants. You'll put in your Jira Solman ID UL for it. So that you can always go and find this directly, because yeah, we'll never replace Jira, but will just be a way that enable you to actually get all the information that is needed for Jira. So now we have created this. So this is a ticket where we can then see all the changes that have occurred as a part of this. We can then look up all the different test cases that we have in the system for all the affected iFlows. And I got a test case here that I created a little while ago. And yeah, you obviously want to run it with all the different tests, but for now I don't really have time for that, I think. So we can then specify that it needs to run on the system. Oh, oops. Let me just see if I got something wrong. Yes. So the way we have testing, we have a lot of different ways that you can actually run tests with with this. And I guess maybe that goes to show the second slide here. So if we go back to the slide and show this, so obviously in DevOps or any development process, testing is really a crucial thing in that you want to make sure that you can actually test the things that's being delivered in a reasonable manner. The way we propose to do testing is record replay. So we'll take some data either from your productive system or an existing run from the development box. You can then, and in this case we have created mock requests. So normally when you're creating something like this, you will, for instance, if you have a success factor integration where you're saying create employee, then you can only create that employee once unless you refresh the system, and that in cloud world pretty difficult. So you need somehow to, if you want to create test cases on that and want to make sure you're testing all the scripts around it, you need to add in code that says every time you run it, increment the name with 1 or something like that. And depending on the duplicate check and license, and this could be a little challenging. Therefore, we automate the test with mocking, where we would actually, instead of you testing with the real iFlow, we'll create a mock of it and instead use a mock of these data. So it will send the data instead of sending it to the success factor system. It will then send it to the SAP or the Figaf system, making it a lot easier for you to manage, and you don't need to create anything. The challenge why I didn't want to do this is this can sometimes take a little while to replicate and set up, but let's see how long time it takes. So the main thing is we're creating this iFlow. It's needs to be deployed, and then once it has been deployed, the tool will then send messages into it. So here we can see this Figaf mock that has been created. It has been made with a specific endpoint in mind. We can view the iFlow, see what this iFlow looked like. Now we created this mock iFlow of it. I guess one thing I'd probably, so here we can see it's calling with HTTP to the Figaf system via the cloud connector. So it depends on what kind of systems you have that enables you to run this. And so the way we are running testing is using the trace functionality, because that makes it really simple to run these things. So we can see we sent the message in here in trace mode, and if we then go back to our test case, any questions, put them into the chat. So yeah, and if the endpoint is something that we can trigger, like SOAP, HTTP, and process direct, it will just send the message directly if you have not switched on this iFlow. If it's something else like a scheduled event or something we have not supported yet, it will just create a different iFlow of it with some of the same properties as you have here. And if we then look at the data here, we can view the results of the comparison, and now we can see that there were some differences in it. We can go around seeing what all these differences are. So we can see that this was changed from DevOps to DevOps August 2004, which was kind of expected. So that was pretty good. We can, I guess that's probably the difference that's easy to take. So we can just click here, add it to ignore list. Then this value will be ignored next time we run it and run the comparison, and we can just recompare all the messages again, and then hopefully we can see if there's any other differences in this process. And then once you have found out whether or not this test case is valid and everything like that goes as you want it to. Let's see here. So we can see there's still one small diff here, and that's on the end event. I think that was the new thing. So we created a new webinar that was only in the tested message, so we can add that to the ignore list also, and then everything is successful. But obviously we don't really want that. We just want to say, okay, now we know this is the differences we have, so next time we run it, we want to make sure this is our expected output. So what we can actually do here is we can say use this as the expected output for our next run. And then just open test run configuration. Here we can see all these test run configurations that have been added. We can then remove these things and this mock endpoint also. Any questions, comments, put them into the chat. We'll try to go through those also. So now we have been around, we have created our ticket. We know what has actually happened as a part of this. We know who made the request to fix these kind of issues for this. And we can see the status here. I think this will be updated to successful. In some batch jobs that are running continuously when you're making change to it. Now, obviously, we want to make sure that we can transport this to our productive system. So we select Start Transport. And for this package, it's probably okay because there's only 2 objects in it. But if you start to have a lot of different iflows in one package, it becomes really difficult to actually understand what is being changed and what to do about it. So we can now see here we have an iflow. And one of the challenges, obviously, in a configuration setting is that you need to figure out, once we deploy this to QA in production, what are all the different settings that we have as a part of this. And here you want to be able to specify all the configuration parameters for a specific iflow. So we have the API key. The API key should then be something unique in the new environment. Host name, ports, and everything like that. And the idea is that once you have configured it in here, the Figaf DevOps tool knows everything about what's going on, and then it can enable you to actually fetch the data at a later state. So we're kind of save successfully. And we then have the option, we can send it to approval. And in the landscape configuration, maybe I should just show that one. So in the landscape configuration, you can then specify what your landscapes look like, what's a part of them, and stuff like that. So if we look at the here we have our CPI system, or CPI landscape, where we can specify on our dev system, on a QA system, deploy after import or require approval, and who can approve it. And this makes it possible actually to find a lot of these different pipelines that you have about QA approval, steps like this, for running this along the way in your development process. So now we have defined our landscape, we know who's approving it, and I'm also logged in as approver to make it a little easier to manage these things. So we have our ticket still here. And our transport. It says waiting for approval. We can approve it, or we can reject it. it's not as fun to reject it on this presentation. We can then specify that it needs to import all of this, and then it will import this on the target system and deploy it, because that was what we configured in this process. So once it has imported, it will run the configuration and show everything that's going on as a part of this. So now we'll just do some post synchronization. And we can then see we're actually getting a warning here saying that we had not created this security credential, and obviously want to do that, check it again, and then it should be successful. So now we can go back to our tool, we can set it to resolved. Hey, we made this, everything is live in production. We can generate a report. Yes. No, I want that one. So here we can see the report of this specific issue, when it was generated, all the general information, all the objects that has been a part of this, what were the test cases we ran, what was the success or errors with this, and then what are the transport that has been imported as a part of this, and when was something delivered. And then we can upload this to Jira, Solman, wherever, to make sure we have documented these are the changes that we have made as a part of this process. So this is what I believe will make it a lot easier for you to deliver SAP integration on our SAP CPI in a more simplified manner. And yeah, so the last part of the DevOps is obviously being able to support and monitor the process. So in the tool we also have a monitoring option that allows you to specify specific iflows that you want to see and run specific configuration on it. So we can see we're getting some alert here. We can see what the reason for this was. We can see there was actually a rule that has already been applied to this, and in this rule we can then, these will then be executed in order. We can specify who needs to get the information. We can send it to webhook so you can get it into Jira, what are the other tools you have. You can mute it so you will not get spammed with too many of the same incidents. So making just one tool to make it easier to monitor the process. And then we got a message monitor, and the idea here is that you can add multiple iflows into a specific process, and that means it's a lot easier for you to actually see the business processes. So here, if we look at this, we can see what was executed in this context. We have all the data about it. We have both MPL attachment and persistent messages that we can see from just one UI, and you can then give this to specific users. So there's a lot of different roles that you can set up in this. So in the user management, you can specify who is allowed to, for instance, view the specific message file. So you can create a tile that contains finance, and they can then handle these things. And in the user management, you also have some people that are able to just run tests, create configuration. So there's a lot of different settings on what you can do in that perspective. And obviously you have the option of letting developers or specific developers approve or reject different things. And another benefit is that developers don't need development access in QA and production, because all the tasks that they normally would be able to do could actually be done with the tool thus removing really the need for them to have access. I hope that answers the question on rules. So that was, I guess, the big part of the demo that I wanted to cover. Please, more questions. It's a lot more fun. We showed the configuration that you can configure one place and configure everything. We showed the transport. You have approval. You can document the changes. You know who had approved which changes, and have documentation inside of the system, so you know as a part of this change who made these transports. We showed the monitoring, that you can add groups to it. We showed the alerting of iFlows that can give you access on the statuses. One new feature we just added is this thing about multi-iFlow. So given that you want, for instance, to have one iFlow deployed in multiple company codes, we have created a small enhancement that allow you to just take the iFlow. So if we go to this change tracking tool that has access to all your iFlows, just show it briefly. So here we got it, the main iFlow. You can then create a distribution configuration. So now we have created a distribution, and this is then, we can then specify how many extra iFlows. So let's just create 2. We will create one for Denmark. Oh. And that we can make sure that the URLs for instance, the API key is called DE and the other one is called DK or whatever we want to configure. We can upload and deploy all of these iFlow and specify whether or not we want to have configuration here. So this is really useful, and obviously once the original iFlow is changed, all the subsequent ones will also be changed as a part of this. So this will be in the next release. And we do have the same support for API management and PI. So if you also have those platforms, then it'll be just one way of delivering SAP integration. Deployment options, you can run it on a laptop, and it is pretty simple to start. It takes like 5 minutes to install it, which is actually just a jar you need to start up. Then you'll connect it to the CPI system as an agent, and you can then decide whether or not you want to create all the other things, landscapes and stuff like that as a part of this. You can also use the Figaf cloud. We have it also running in a cloud instance. If you want to run it in productive settings, it's a basic Java application that needs some commercial databases that you can run it. Most of our customers are using it in Azure, AWS, and then they have a hosted Postgres instance, and then they got access to it internally on their network. So some of the features we're looking at developing, we have an undelete. So if you have by mistake deleted an object, you can just right click and say undelete, and then it will undelete it. We also plan on add Cloud Foundry support, because obviously that is pretty important in that perspective. Open connectors, where you would have some kind of the same option of editing it in Groovy, and then if you have any ideas, we are able to add some more features to make it easier to manage SAP integration. Pricing, obviously interesting. So we do have a basic package that's like 600 euros a month. And it includes everything that I've showed you today. Testing, we could probably have gone more into the test cases. It's really a cool area. Git repository monitoring and transport, obviously. And then it's like 600 euros a month and something like 6 euros extra per extra iFlows you have. Oh yeah, we got 40 minutes iFlows. So and we will minimum charge for 3 months, so it can be used for if you have a specific project that needs some faster delivery time. Obviously, we would hope you will stay for longer. So it's pretty simple to sign up. Just go to figaf.com/devops. Sign up. There's a lot of tutorials, videos about how you can get started. So that was, I guess, what I wanted to show right now. If there's questions, comments, please put them into the chat or drop me an email. You can also send it to support. I guess it's really cool. I'm now on the screen and I'm pointing to the slide deck, which is this one, where there's the support email you can contact, and in most cases we would be able to help you set it up and try it out and show you what it looks like in your system. But yeah, as stated, there's some different videos that shows you what is going on. And I'm still here, so it's good. Yes, any questions, comments, just put them into the chat. Or is there anything you want me to dive a little more deep into? I guess we got like 12 minutes that we can cover some of the things that you have questions and or is there anything you would like to see me present also? Just would also like to hear that. It's always good to get some different inputs about what we can do with regards to this. Yes. Cool. But yeah, thanks for joining. I really appreciate all of you being here. Yes, you can use it both for standard and custom iFlows. So maybe I can show that. And one of the features that you're also getting is you can see if there is some standard iFlows that you have. You can see what SAP has released as a part of this. So let's see if we have anything that is updatable. Oh, so here we have success factors. Let's see what's in this. Thanks. So let's update the package. And we will then specify in the tool here that success factors we can either synchronize all or just this one package. Success factors tracked, and yeah, I think it takes like 2 minutes if you want to synchronize all, and we have like 400 iFlows in it. Obviously, depending on how many is. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Sorry. Yes. So I updated this Active Directory package. I synchronized it. And we can see that it's being updated. We can see the package has been updated. We can see that this iFlow configuration has been updated. most interesting is obviously to see what is yeah, so we can see here the versions. So obviously live, and in the simplified model you can go in and actually see the change that has been made between the different versions, and we can see that there was something in this some change in a specific part of the process, and yeah, sometimes they can be a little challenging to read. EDI and B2B, oh yeah, we don't really have any options for it, so we cannot, yeah, anything specifically you're looking for in that perspective. So right now I can also configure this and deploy it in the landscape with the same kind of process. So we can see all of these were changed, so we'll just add them to a change. Okay, so let me just show the API management also. What to license it? Oh, some objects. Okay. So some things can be done. Maybe I've added too much in it. If you want to look at the API management, the process and the architecture we have is really the same part. And here we can see the API management. We can see the different packages that you have. Here I have taken a proxy. I have then added to a ticket. We have then created a transport on it, and we have then moved this transport in the landscape, and with that it's the same process for the with importing and what you can do with it. With the terms of the projects, and here we can see we got this this project. So let me just find the right. So we have proxy Northwind 21. If we go into the Spike Arise and says this is no 2008, we can save it, upload it directly from here, or download. So we have these upload and download here. And if we go to our, so one of the other really nice features is this launchpad that allow you to actually launch the correct API management instance directly from here. So that makes some things a little easier. I hope that this is what you are looking for. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. It seems a little slow. Maybe because I'm doing too much streaming. We do not support data services. I'm not sure on how much is going on in the data service world and what the future of that is. But open connectors is definitely one of the things I have my eye on. And we can see here the policies should now be changed. So we can see now the spike just as we had in the process. And if we did the tracking here, we could also see that the API has now been changed. Cool questions? So yeah, so this is the API management. We can see we now made a change to these 4 objects. As a part of this change, we can assign it to a ticket. We can assign it to a landscape. We have a Jira instance. We don't have testing as a part of this because I think there's probably a lot of better tools to test normal APIs. And here, if we just do the transport on it, it is pretty simple just to transport here API management. We don't have access to the SAP. So the question is, do we have a option to do authorizations? No, not yet. I don't really know how to do that in a good manner. I think probably you want to use the AD for that and assign roles in it. But obviously I can see some cases where if you're using S users, it makes it simple. So if we I don't know if I did import. Oh, some problems. Or maybe it's just login problem. I don't know. Yeah, now it's imported successfully, and we got the full documentation of it. One thing we have that may make things a little easier is that in the user management, you can specify which users have which S users. So normally you will just have the S users or the Windows user, and they could then see what was going on. We can now have an option to actually translate it into human readable users, which is really nice. So you can actually see who is the Figaf DevOps user that is using the tool. More questions. So yes. Oh, I need to look at the right screen. Cool. Yeah, I'm still here. But yes, thanks for joining. I really appreciate so many of you wanting to spend a little time with me, seeing what is possible, and hopefully you got some ideas about development shouldn't be as difficult, and you want to automate more of these things. Yes, you can manage a Groovy script also. Obviously not in the platform here, but that was where you will go through the Git repository, and here you can see all the Groovy scripts that you have and all the resources that exist as a part of this. So you have it here, and you can deploy and upload directly from here without using the IDE. Obviously you still need to edit the BPM model, and I think you got it up here, but yeah, it's a little difficult editing this one. Thank you, Samuel. Appreciate it. And all the other ones that BRM, not yet. I guess that is there a same challenge with that. I thought maybe not with the rule management, at least with the BPM. I think you are just doing some Git development and delivering in that format. But for BRM, I'm not really sure on what is possible there. Thank you, Samuel. Cool. Yes. Any new ones that just joined? Thank you, Kati. Cool. Thanks for joining, all of you. Yes, I hope you wanna try it out. I'm not really see if any one of you actually tried to sign up for downloading. So yeah, it should be pretty simple. Maybe I should have added that as a bottom third on this one. Yeah, obviously go to here to sign up, try it out and see how easy it is to get started. Cool. Good. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Yes. Cool. Can a developer get an alert along with the message to investigate what is going on? No, with the. So let me see if I'm sharing that I am. So in the test tool, on the support tool, one of the options that you do have is that, and if you then send it up to an email, you will then get an email. Here you can set which attachments. If you have sent an email, then you will actually get the attachment. So we have the attachments here as a part of this, and if we test it, I should most likely get an email with this information in, so we can see it has been sent, and then you as a developer will get let me just pop this out. So here is the email that you'll then get. What was changed? Here it is not showing, and all the XML attachments of it, and if we had extracted the MPL attachment, it will also be there. So you can actually see, here you can specify which attachments to be sent. If there's any attachments in the document or MPL attachment, you can specify which one to send, or all of them, making it a little easier to get started. More questions? I'm still here. If you just joined, we started an hour ago. But I guess you can still ask questions. I'm still here. Any other questions? Let me see here. Is there? Cool. Good. More questions? Otherwise, yeah, you have the contact information here. At the moment, we do not support GMS monitoring, but we are interested in seeing what kind of use cases we have. So one thing is you have also here an option that can show you what's the current status of the system, what's the CPU load, stuff like that. You can actually see also when it changes, when the system has been changed, how many messages are we processing an hour, stuff like that. And I guess part of that could also be to fetch DMS information. Also, we haven't looked much into that one, but that the data store also make a lot of sense to check out. Yeah, because yeah. But I guess that will just be an API that will set up the same way. And we then, in the support tool, one of the options we also have from that is that you can then in the log, I think it is, here you have different set. Oh, this is not that one. Consumer, receive, log. Oh, the metric here. Here you can go in and set up if CPU usage is about 40%, if data store access is whatever, send an alert, and then you'll get these kind of alerts that says, hey, there was a slow latency over 200 milliseconds. So with that, you can actually see a lot more about which rules has been triggered and challenges that have occurred along the way. And if we look at the data here we can see what the value was and when it was collected. So we got this kind of data directly in here. Yes, we do. So on the roadmap is, yeah, obviously a Cloud Foundry, Open Connectors. Then it is kind of the integration suite that we are supporting. And now I just got access to integration suite, so now I'll see if we can add these things. But I think if we add the Cloud Foundry support for both API management and CPI, Open Connectors, I think the integration suite is pretty well covered. Obviously, if you have any other part, then we'll see that. At the moment, we don't have the key store, but I've got that as on the idea to look at key stores and certificates, put them into the versioning, and set up rules saying, hey, you got a certificate that has been expired for some time. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense to add key store also to these kind of alerts, so you're getting the full information about what's going on. Good. Thanks. Where do you have logs? So obviously some other challenges for the monitoring would be the option to restart or cancel messages that are being processed, but for now it does not look like there's really a lot of APIs for it, and obviously we do need some kind of an API to remove or handle these kind of things. So yeah, it is the logs. These message logs. I don't know if there's any API for it or not. I haven't used that functionality much, but if that makes sense, it's probably okay to add that also as certificates or anything like that. Or in the monitor over here that you can see how many logs, and if a log is older than whatever 2 minutes, raise some kind of an exception depending on the system. I have not used the partner directory, and I guess that's with the EDI part and what's going on there. But yeah, for B2B at one point, or for the PI solution, we at one point in time also had an option to look at the TPM and handled versioning the same way, and I think that would make a lot of sense to add that also. But yeah, the way we're developing these things is mostly customer feedback and what would make sense and where people have problems, and partner directory probably a good candidate also for these things. If so, how many alerts you'll get? That is one of the things you have here that you can specify muted for a specific point in time. So you can say if we're getting an alert that looks like the one we already got, we will mute